Very good. We working out the technology and everything, man, but we gonna get it in.
It's all good, man. I'm working out a place where I can be uninterrupted because it's really hard. The whole fam is at home. My kids are working online. My wife is online. It's like
true indeed, true indeed. We're gonna do this. Then I'm gonna send this message to let folks know that we're on live now. Okay, we're on live now. Advertise link. So, what do I need to do for the Facebook here?
Just minimize here. Hold on, that way. Hold up. You have a title? What's your title?
Hip-hop community conversations with Minister Server. And then put featuring Seb L. S-E-L.
you know what? You can just say Seb.
Okay, just Seb.
Yeah, Seb. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Seb.
Type it here. What is it?
Hip-hop community conversations. S-E-B.
And you want to put featuring spelled out?
Yeah. Oh, no, excuse me. Community conversations with Minister Server featuring. Yeah.
You want it with spelled out or like W like this?
Yeah, good like that. Mm-hmm.
With
Minister Server, right, featured, yeah.
Under featuring, like it's a song title or how so?
No, just an
FT. Okay, FT,
yeah.
Seb, how you spell Seb?
Yeah.
Okay.
How's the family and everybody, Seb?
Say that again.
How's the family and everybody?
Family's good, man. Everybody's good. Considering, all things considered, we're actually doing pretty well.
Give thanks, man.
How about you, man?
Same here, bro. You said all things considered, just giving thanks, yo.
Yep, there you go.
It's crazy when I hear some of these stories, man. Like, wow. Okay, we ready? Okay, so we're getting ready. I guess how long should it take this?
All right.
A few seconds.
All right, so we're ready to go live right now, and I'm gonna do a basic intro. Kind of talk about Hip Hop Appreciation Week, and then I'll intro you. And like I said, it's just a conversation. We're going to feel free to interject anything that you want to, add to, any questions for me or whatever. And of course, I want you to give your background of, your hip hop background, teacher background, that type of stuff as we get into the conversation.
Cool. Sounds like a plan.
All right. So that's the thing that you're pulling in there? Is it coming up now?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you click the go live thing there?
Okay.
Yeah. Setting up your Facebook Live, okay? When that comes in, we're good to go.
Yep.
Should be.
Yeah. I'm not sure about never done
How do I tell? Is that it right here? Or? How do it's still coming in, so hold on. Do I need to go to my actual page? My profile page?
How do you get to live from here? Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see it from your Facebook regardless.
I wouldn't.
You're the one online.
That's videos from me.
Yeah, this is
go to my page. Yeah. But no. Go back to the home page. No. Go right to my page. Now, if you go down to like maybe post something, yeah, go on in.
You should be right here.
Right, go ahead, click on it.
Okay.
Bring it back to the Zoom.
Okay.
For the people that can hear me out there, we are working out some technical situations right here. Patience is truly a virtue. There we go. Seb, can you see me? Seb, can you hear me?
Sir. Yeah, I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we are live. Tasman, can you go to Facebook just to check this to make sure? All right, yo, so welcome, good people out there. I am Minister Server, transmitting live from the planet Earth. Got my man Seb, who I've known for a minute. He's a hip hop journalist. He's a hip hop father and educator in the whole nine. So with these community conversations, the main thing that we want to do is just, have some real good conversations. All of us have been in different kind of social distancing and quarantining, and there's a lot of ideas. And in the spirit of Hip Hop Appreciation Week, which this theme this year is vision. So want to, first of all, just kind of get started with everything. If y'all don't mind, want to do a quick prayer. We always want to welcome spirit in. So any position that you're most comfortable with, Seb, I invite you to get in as we give thanks to the Creator, the name of the Most High, known by many different attributes, and with us, that's never a dispute. We know there's one power, one presence, one intelligence that governs the entire universe. It is the spirit of immortality within us, expressing itself through us as us. We know that we are a higher infinite power, healing our people. Yes, we are hip hop. So guide our hearts, our minds, our tongues, and our thoughts as we conduct this community conversation. It is true, we let it be, and there it is. Amen, Ashe, word. All right, Sam, so what's good, man? Hip Hop Appreciation Week 2020, for those that don't know, Hip Hop Appreciation Week was started by Bassmaster KRS-One, the teacher, in 1998 as a part of the hip hop. And one of the main reasons that Hip Hop Appreciation Week exists is for us to decriminalize the images that are typically shown in mainstream hip hop. The way that they portray us in hip hop, said, and you can definitely talk about this a bit more, is not the way that we are. Not that that's not the truth, but it's not the full truth. So in Hip Hop Appreciation Week, we want to decriminalize the images that are typically shown throughout hip hop and to show images of us and just celebrate ourselves. You know what I'm saying? If we don't appreciate ourselves, then who's going to appreciate us? You know what I'm saying? So throughout these community conversations, I'll be talking to people that I admire and respect and think that the world needs to know about them as well. So today, I'm honored to have my brother, Sam, on here. As I said, he's a hip hop husband and father, and educator and journalist. So Sam, tell the people about you, who you are. Let's get this conversation started.
Word up. Well, peace. Thanks for having me. First of all, man, I really appreciate it. Like you said, we've known each other for a while, so we know our respective get downs. But for those people out there who don't know, let me tell you. Oh, before I get started, some of you guys may be thinking Seb is crazy. He's driving while he's doing this.
I definitely was wondering about that, Seb.
Yeah, I'm about to find parking. My situation at home, my kids are on Zoom doing work. My wife is on Zoom doing work, and there was nowhere in the house I could find to basically, have peace. So I got in the car, and it's noisy out here. So I'm driving back in front of my house so I can have a place to build. So that's the reality. That's the reality that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Which,
that's what we're gonna talk about that for sure, because that is the reality.
Exactly. So that's what I was saying. It's a pretty good segue into where we're going to be going during this conversation. So rest assured, I am done driving right now, and I'm good.
Be safe, brother. Be safe.
So, yes, sir. So try to make a long story short, I am a product of hip hop culture. Started b-boying around 1981, 1982. Got into beatboxing and emceeing and DJing in the early 80s as well. So my whole life is hip hop. Hip hop is my culture.
No doubt.
And I've worn many hats since starting out as an MC and as a beatboxer. At some point after my dreams of making it as an artist didn't really go according to plan, I got into behind the scenes, and I've worn many hats. Worked for a couple of labels. Done a lot of freelance work. Organizing MC battles. I've done some artist development. Spent quite a bit of time doing publicity,
Yeah.
and kind of carved out a lane for myself as an independent hip hop journalist. And many years ago, when I got sick and tired of being in the hip hop industry or in the rap industry,
Right. True.
I decided to take all of this experience that I've had and channel it into something a little bit more constructive. And I developed a hip hop education curriculum, and it's now been about 16, 17 years that
Wow.
I've been teaching hip hop culture.
Yeah.
So and that's where I'm at today. So that's where I stand today as a hip hop educator.
Okay, yeah. So definitely kind of just want to go back because I think one of the things that happens in hip hop when talking to people like yourself, there's a level of humility that's honorable, but we got stories, bro. You know what I'm saying? We got stories that people need to know. People need to know the background, particularly when now you have people that are kind of coming into our culture that are trying to put themselves out as experts because they've done some research. And while that's valid, they have the practical experience, as we say, overstanding, which is the experience of actually living the culture. So as a hip hop journalist, talk to us about how that role was and dealing with the artist versus the label, because I'm sure sometimes the label may have wanted you to have the artist portrayed in a certain kind of way, but as a journalist, you have to maintain your journalistic integrity. So talk to us about some of those early journalistic hip hop days. Can you hear me? Sam, can you hear me?
Sure. And
I
the
forgot, we have this delay.
it was very choppy, so I didn't get.
Is choppy on your end as well?
Hello.
Okay, go ahead. I'm still there.
Hello.
I think during the Facebook and the Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, Seth, if you can hear me,
I can't hear you.
take off the Facebook Live and just do the Zoom and then repost it. That'll probably be better. Let's do that. Or you just want to do the Facebook Live? What you think? The Zoom, I think it'd be better because we can record it.
Yeah.
Okay, Seth, what we're going to do is turn off the Facebook Live. So the people that listen to Facebook Live.
But you might be able to record it from Facebook Live.
I'm not sure if I can though. Okay, we're going to work out the technology side of it. So Seb, hold on for a minute. We're definitely going to come back at least through the Zoom. If we can't, we record through the Facebook Live from what my assistant is telling me. We're going to come back on that. So. Okay, so I need to sign back in. How do we change that though? Yeah. Technology, people. We're gonna work it out. This is my assistant, Taj Malik, my son. He's the proof.
I was just on
Zoom.
this.
Yeah, just the Zoom. That's all I need. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
And the Zoom is still recording,
yeah,
right?
this is still on Zoom. This is still
Okay.
recording.
Sid, can you hear me better now?
No, we can't hear him.
Oh, hold on. Oh.
He's muted. Yeah.
Hey, Sid, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. I think I was
You hear
trying to
me?
do too much. I think I was trying to do too much with the Facebook Live and this with the little Wi-Fi that we have. We're gonna do it this way, and then I'll just repost it like I did the one from yesterday. Cool.
Okay. That'll
All right, cool. So let's pick up to where we talked about. I was talking about a number of times with the online and social media, people don't even understand about hip hop journalism. Saying they don't understand, some of the challenges that went upon being a hip hop journalist. And like I said, it came from different sides, from the way the artists were sometimes, the way that the labels were, the way that the magazines that you may have been working with. So kind of tell us about some of those early journalistic hip hop adventures or stories, or any artists that kind of stick out, or any stories that kind of stick out from your hip hop journalistic days.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll tell you my adventures, my journey as a hip hop journalist actually starts around 1993. My partner and I started our own publication around that time. We were having some issues with the Source magazine was going,
Mm.
and we thought up to ourselves, instead of complaining, why don't we do our own thing and create our own publication. So we did that. Again, it's 1993.
Okay.
We have no knowledge of technology. We're not online. We're not computer savvy. So we had to partner with some people who had the tech knowledge. But what we did is just pretty much jump in, without any prior knowledge, just our desire to create a hip hop publication, which we believe would actually be more in tune with the voices of hip hop. Not to take anything away from the Source, but it
Sure.
was just our interpretation of it. And for
Yeah.
us, it was about
And
really.
just to kind of jump in, and that's very important because those are early years. You know what I'm saying? It's not even really industry then. So that's, there were a number of people that were jumping in and kind of fill those gaps. So yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. So what we wanted to do was create a platform that is hip hop and socially conscious, right? We were seeing too many fluff pieces, too much hype over nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to bring in more consciousness in hip hop.
Yeah.
So we created a platform for that allows us to do both. Yes, we talk about hip hop. Yes, we can, have more emphasis on, the art of hip hop, but we got to talk about the culture. We got to talk about social issues, current events, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we created. And like I said, we went in without any prior knowledge. And it was a combination of self-written articles that we collected, friends, and interviews, artists. And the first artist we ever interviewed was Master Ace.
So,
And
of the publication.
well, it actually went through two changes. The first name that we used was Underground Revolution.
Okay.
And a few issues in, we noticed that there was another one named Underground Revolution. So we changed it to Do the Knowledge.
Okay.
Right.
So in those early days, man, like, it's interesting. You were talking about 93, man. I tell people, excuse me, there's always different shifts. So those of us that are the seasoned members of the community, as I like to call us, there are a lot of things that we've experienced, and a number of times we kind of take for granted how we actually helped to develop this multinational, multi-billion-dollar culture. And yet
Absolutely.
the things that we were doing, and like I said, mainly it was done just out of the love and respect for the culture, for the people in it. Early on, we recognized how hip hop could be used to break down so many different barriers, racially, culturally, religion-wise, all of the different barriers that hip hop could be used from. So I think a number of times that one of the things that we have to do is to begin to tell stories a bit more. So that's kind of the concept about these hip hop community conversations, man, because a number of times, like even when we're talking about hip hop, a number of times, if you're not dealing with rappers, then we don't hear the stories enough. You know what I'm saying? And back in '93, as I tell people, when KRS-One came up with Return to Boom Bap, and he was like, rap is something you do, hip hop is something you live. We will be able to start making those kind of proclamations. A lot of us around the world were co-signing without really knowing what that meant, but in our spirit really felt like rap is just something. Hip hop is more than just rap. And more than just b-boying and more than just DJing and more than just graffiti. It became a part of our lifestyle. So talk about your transition from a hip hop journalist to a hip hop educator. How did that happen and how was that transition?
A lot of it had to do with being sick and tired of the industry.
Yeah, talk about that, bro. Talk about it.
So I'm sure you can relate. A lot of people can relate to, what the industry is like, the corruption, the degree of. I'm sorry. Hold on, just a second.
No problem. Take your time, yo. I see you looking for space. I admire you, man. All these things that we are doing, it's all a work in progress, man. And people know that human beings, what we will do is adjust and then adapt.
Yeah, that's
Take your time,
what it
brother.
is.
I'm on your time. We all good. We all good.
I apologize. Under normal circumstances, I would be much more prepared.
There is no more normal, Seb. There is no more normal. You know what I mean?
You guys are seeing a man who is literally looking for a place to conduct this interview.
Again, because see, that's the children at home, the wife at home. We have to find those different kind of spots to get in where we fit in, man.
Yeah, that's it. My wife is. My wife is teaching on
my daughter and my granddaughter running here while I'm doing this because they're out right now, but I don't know when they're coming back. So I feel.
Yeah. So hopefully under this tree is where I can stay.
Word. Under the tree of knowledge. We're speaking of Sam.
Yeah, there you go.
He's sitting under the tree of knowledge, dropping jewels for the people.
Exactly.
But we were talking about your transition from a hip hop journalist to a hip hop educator and some of your frustrations in dealing with the culture and the industry.
So the culture has, the industry has always been corrupt. That's nothing new. We all know that.
From the beginning.
From the beginning, right? And so no difference there. But after being involved as a journalist, even though I spent a considerable amount of time, as a freelancer. So yes, I worked for a couple of labels. I did have some more, traditional connections and ties to the music industry, but thankfully a lot of it was freelance. So so for me, unplugging from this matrix wasn't as difficult as somebody who had been fully invested and completely engaged in it. It was much easier for me to do. Also, my commitment is not to the industry. My commitment is to the culture and to our world in general. So it wasn't, I didn't feel like I was giving up anything in leaving the industry and making that transition. But that did lead me to developing this hip hop culture curriculum because I had to channel my passion. I had to channel what I value into something that can be delivered to the people, those who need it most. That's our babies, the youth, right? And to give it to them in a way that wouldn't be altered, wouldn't be compromised, wouldn't be co-opted, wouldn't be turned into some corporate product, right? And to me, the best way to have the hip hop culture presented raw, true, authentic, honest was in the field of education. So I created this program And again, this is before the field of hip hop education became a little bit more, I don't want to say popular, that's not the right word because it still isn't popular, but
Yeah.
before it became a little bit more widely recognized.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because and you know that's a conversation. I guess we have another time about how hip hop education is kind of being presented versus some of us, like I said, that we were doing hip hop education without even trying to even label it that. So yeah, that's
Right.
another thing. So go ahead.
So the challenge for me was how to go from a hip hop head, a freelancer, DIY kind of guy, into bringing a hip hop class to the schools. Now, at that point, we had already started hearing about hip hop education or hip hop courses at a university level. And there had been some who had implemented after school programs. My goal, my idea, was to turn it into a legitimate class, just like history, just like science, just like math, just like English, right? To have a regular hip hop culture class offered during regular school hours. So there's no opting out because after
Right,
school,
which is so key because a number of times they came out as like after school programs and
right.
that nature. So good, yeah, go ahead though. Very.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can opt out with an after school program. And my thing was like, there's no opting out. You're gonna
Right,
get this
right.
knowledge whether you want it or not. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. And to do that, it has to become a mandatory class, just like any other classes. You know, and I had no background in education, formal education, right? But decades of experience in hip hop education,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Because anybody who's a hip hopper knows that education is embedded in the culture. That's part of
Street
it.
knowledge. That's one of the elements we talk about. That knowledge that doesn't come from just the classroom. And
That's
obviously,
right.
we have a number of different scholars who attest to that. You know what I'm saying? From
That's right.
us to knowledge,
That's right.
that never even finished high school and still
Right.
superior
Right.
knowledge. So yeah.
That's true. So as hip hopper at our best, at our peak, we are born to be teachers. If we truly understand this culture and practice it and live it to its fullest, we are teachers. So for me, my thing was, I know I have the knowledge and the talent to do it, but at a traditional school, how do you convince the traditional educational system? So long story short, I ended up doing a series of workshops for a couple of years. I was doing workshops throughout LA and kind of making a name for myself
Okay, do
in the
that.
early 2000s. Making a name for myself, speaking at different high schools, speaking at panel discussions, even speaking to therapists, counselors, educators, teachers, therapists, et cetera, just to teach them or train them on how to use hip hop culture as a
Yeah.
tool to better connect with the population they were working with. And in 2006, I had an opportunity to work with Kanye West. Kanye West at the time, the Kanye West Foundation had an initiative called the Loop Dreams
Okay.
initiative,
Word.
and they were looking to bring hip hop class into middle school, a middle school in LA. And somebody who knew Kanye's mom uh, came to one of my workshops. She put me in touch with Kanye's mom. One thing led to another, and they hired me to help develop this curriculum, which for me wasn't a problem since I've been doing hip hop education workshops
Right.
for a few years at that point.
That is so dope,
So
man.
that
That's
brought
so
me,
dope, man. Big up to Don DeWest, rest in peace. Obviously she was an
right,
educator and
for
was
sure,
really committed
definitely.
to the education, and that's beautiful that y'all were able to link to make that happen. In the classroom. So you said that was in 2006.
That was in 2006, where
Wow.
Dr.
Wow.
West, Kanye's mom, interviewed me, hired me to uh, to first develop their curriculum and then to actually teach it. So for me, it wasn't an issue because, like I said, I've been doing it for a while.
Right, exactly.
But what that did is that brought me into a school as a full-time teacher, right? Which is something I probably wouldn't have been able to do on my own, you know.
True.
But obviously, the Kanye West Foundation already had a partnership with the school. It's much easier for them to establish a partnership with a established organization that has a name recognition to it than it is little old me, right?
Right. You
So
know what? And you know,
that
let me
gave
just
me
jump
an
in that right quick.
opportunity.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. With that model that's been being set, why do you think more hip hop artists haven't, kind of got with other school systems and kind of duplicated that model, or remix it, whatever the case? What do you think some of the holdup is? That like that was 15 years ago almost. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think some of the holdup that should be in all the
Right.
schools everywhere? What do you think the main holdup is?
Oh, I can't wait to get to that. What the point you just made, it should be in school. We're going to talk about that.
Cool.
But to your point, to your question, I think a lot of it has to do with the idea that, first of all, what I mentioned earlier, bringing hip hop education into the classroom full time. Now, I've seen artists before who partner with high schools or middle schools or even elementary schools to offer after school programs, or maybe they might come in once a week and do, some type of alternative program. But I think the idea that this can be a full-time class is, and this is no disrespect to artists, this is just the fact that they're not in the field of education.
Right.
So they can't possibly understand the structure, the mechanics of the world of education and what it takes to actually bring full-fledged hip-hop culture class into the curriculum, right? So it's easier to partner with a school, and do a one-shot type of situation
Right.
than it is to fully commit to a full-on program, because then you're talking about getting teachers credentials. You're no longer talking about just hip hop culture. Hey, I'm a guest speaker. Let me tell you about MCing. Let me tell you about, b-boying. Now you're talking about being a teacher, what that means, lesson planning, curriculum development, just understanding classroom management, all these things that no longer have anything to do with hip hop. Now you're a traditional teacher. Now you're a classroom teacher. The content that you teach is hip hop, but the way in which you do it and the expectations are the same as they would be as an English teacher, as a math teacher, as a science teacher. And to me, that's beyond the scope of, and again, this is no disrespect. This is not saying that artists don't have foresight or any understanding, but it's beyond the realm.
But as you said, that's not, and I mean, and even if they have the ability to do it, there also has to be a willingness to even want to do it.
Right.
People that have never taught in a classroom setting, they have a real misperception of how hard or how easy it is to teach.
Exactly.
That's a thing that happens a number of different times, particularly now in a situation that parents, I'm sure, are valuing teachers a lot more than they probably ever valued them in American history right now.
Hopefully it'll last.
Right, yeah, hopefully it'll last. In fact, let's kind of speed the conversation up on that. How has this COVID-19 affected well, first of all, talk about what you're teaching, the grades that you put out, like, is it, high school, whatever the case, that, and how has it affected you as a hip hop educator?
A whole lot. First and foremost, I'm all zoomed out. Right.
I appreciate you taking time to do this one, brother.
No, it's all love. So, I teach high school, 9 through 12, right? So all high school grades. Again, I'm a full-time high school teacher. I'm not an after-school teacher, so I always, want to make that clear. So I teach,
What's the school?
Should I shout out the school? It's View Park High School.
Definitely want to shout out the school. Big up to View Park High School.
Exactly. But I got much love for View Park High School. And I'm not just saying that because I work at View Park High School, but I really do have View Park High School is a good school. They have vision and they're really working hard to
Where is it
make.
located?
We're in South Central.
South Central. Where in
LA.
South Central is it located? Give us some landmarks.
I'll
We're
give you the
looking
most.
for it.
Yeah. I know. I will give you a landmark that I think everybody will understand. When you look out of my classroom window, you can see Nipsey's Marathon,
Word,
right?
word.
So that's where it is. You can literally see Nipsey's store looking out my classroom window.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember last year, man, you posted some beautiful pictures from your classroom when the celebrations and the memorials were going on out there. I remember that, man. And
That's right.
those things are really important. So for your students that are having to adjust to this online teaching, talk to us about that.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult, and I don't think that by any means I've mastered a seamless transition from teaching in the classroom to teaching online. It's still a struggle. It's still a challenge for myself, for students, for staff, for parents, for everyone. For reasons that you can see, I'm living right now, trying to find a place to actually, have a Zoom session. And it's the same thing for a lot of my students. If you're a 16, 17-year-old high school student and you have 2 or 3 siblings who are also out of school and who all need to get online to do their Zoom classes, and a parent or 2 parents or other relatives who are all working from home, you're talking about a house that has everybody in the house now trying to get their work done somewhere in some room outside, what have you, that pulls at the Wi-Fi. If you have weak Wi-Fi and you have everybody online at the same time, if you only have 2 or 3, 2 laptops or a phone, but, somebody else needs to use it for their classes, what kind of challenge does that pose? So we're talking about so many, unexpected challenges that this quarantine kind of threw us in. So since we left school, the last day for us was in LA was March 13th, Friday, March 13th. That was the last day in the physical classroom. And since that day, I've never had full participation. I've never been able to get all of my students back in class.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
And how many students are in your class typically?
Typically 20-ish.
Okay.
Right. Some periods are, I have one period that's 27 students. I have some periods that are a little less, but just, to keep it, to give you an average, it's about 20.
Yeah.
And
So what's the actual course that you're teaching?
so the course is called Global Awareness Through Hip Hop Culture. And I also teach a beat making class as well, which is like an additional component to it.
Yeah.
But the core class is Global Awareness Through Hip Hop Culture. And, as the name indicates, it's using hip hop culture as a platform to discuss global issues, current events, social justice.
That's dope.
So it's really just a springboard rooted in hip hop culture. It's a springboard for conversations rooted in hip hop culture. So we begin the semester with a historical, chronological timeline of hip hop culture. So we actually start the school year with the civil rights movement so that we can contextualize.
Yes, very important.
Just so that students don't think hip hop culture was just born out of nowhere or born out of the vacuum. There's something that comes before it. So we start with the civil rights movement to give it a foundation. And throughout the semester, we move through all of the eras. So obviously the foundation of hip hop, moving from the 70s to the 80s. When we get to the 80s and the golden age, we end up backtracking at some point, because once we start talking about pro-Black and Afrocentric themes in hip hop, then we have to talk about, like, well, what does that mean? Why were rappers pro-Black or Afrocentric? Why was there a movement for such? So then we have to go back even further back in history. Like, well, let's talk about it. let's talk about the origin of man. Let's talk about the origin of humankind. You
That's
know,
dope. That's so
so
dope, man.
so then it turns into the almost the history of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, and I actually use the Jungle Brothers acknowledge your own history to lead into that
Big up to the
conversation.
JBs. Big up to the
Sure,
JBs.
sure, definitely. Big up to the JBs, absolutely. So I use that song as the beginning, the introduction to talk about the birth of humanity
Mm.
and the cradle of
Wow.
civilization
Wow.
being the continent. And
Wow.
and then that leads us into further conversations that, again, chronologically, we go from the beginning of time, as far as we can tell, all the way back to present,
Mm.
and then we get back into hip hop and different eras, and then the 90s and the 2000s, and we end the first semester, uh, update back to current. By the time we're done with the first semester, we are back to our current
Okay.
time, and then
Okay.
the second semester explores current events and social issues and current hip hop. So the first semester is history, second
Yeah.
semester is current.
Word. That's really dope. Yesterday I did a community conversation with Generation Hip Hop, and we have people on from like 8 different countries. In fact, I'm going to be posting that on Facebook as well, because that's really dope that on the high school level that they're learning about hip hop from a global perspective. Because that's the one thing that I tell people when we look at where we are as a culture. It's an accident that hip hop culture is everywhere where humanity is. Hip hop already exists. So for people
Exactly.
in the States, where we tend to be the most ignorant as far as the world, as far as knowing about the rest of the world. Where the
Unfortunately.
people know about us, but we don't really know about them. So that's dope that you're doing that in the classroom. The theme this year is vision. And with the COVID-19, as we often talk about, nothing is going back to normal. Those days are over. So as a parent and as a education as an educator and somebody who's involved in hip hop culture itself, how do you see things going forward, or what's your vision for, like, when you go back to the classroom, or is necessarily go back to the classroom? How do you see it playing out? If you can kind of share some of that with us.
Going back to the classroom, that phrase itself uh, is is uncertain.
Yeah.
What does going back into the classroom look like at this point?
Mm-hmm.
We know for sure, and I can speak about my experience at my school, but I also know this is a reflection of schools throughout the United States or throughout the entire world, really. You know, it's not going to go back to normal. And again, you know, putting aside conspiracy theories, putting aside like, oh, this COVID-19 ain't real or blah 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 blah.
Right,
Not
right.
even getting into those conversations
Exactly,
because
exactly.
I know a lot of people are like, oh man, people are making a big deal. This ain't real, blah 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 blah. So putting that aside, whatever your thoughts may be about COVID-19, the pandemic or the plandemic, as people call it, right? The reality is, looking at a traditional school system, we're not going to go back to normal, right? Whether it's politically correct or not. So what does that look like? What does it look like to continue, in my case, to teach hip hop culture in an environment that will no longer resemble what it's been up to this point? I'm still trying to figure it out, but I do know that as a hip hopper, just like I was saying earlier, that knowledge is embedded in hip hop culture itself, right? Uh, Being strategic, being creative, being innovative, being inventive, all of these things are also part of hip hop culture. So we're going to make it work. I'm going to make it work one way or another. Obviously, we have these tools. We have Zoom where we're doing a lot of these classrooms. A lot of the teachers, if teachers are listening to us right now, they can probably relate to Google Classroom, which is a platform that a lot of people are using. So we have these online platforms that allow us to continue teaching
So,
online. But I will say for me, the challenge is, as inventive and innovative as I'd like to be, there's nothing like having a real contact.
Closer too, because you're not on camera.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we just still trying to work out something on the technical side. But go ahead, you good?
Okay. Yeah, there's nothing better than having that real relationship with your students, that real connection with the students in the classroom, and especially for hip hop culture. Hip hop culture, it's not, it's not. And there's no diss to the science teachers or the math teachers out there, right? Because I'm not one, so I can't tell you what it's like. But hip hop is too much of people, too much of the social experience to be limited to doing so online.
Right.
Not that it can't be great.
Especially with everything that's going on now and the age of the students that you're teaching. That's crucial to have that real energy connection. That physical connection is crucial. So I feel you in that.
It's crucial. And it can be done online, but the transition from a classroom teacher to a virtual teacher, that's a hard call. And I will say this in terms of beat making, it's hard to teach beat making online when students need to use the equipment, the studio equipment that we have in the classroom. I have a full-on studio in the classroom. I was fortunate enough to have a studio built into my classroom. So we're talking about
That is really dope. That's really dope. Yeah. I need to get out there, bro.
That's right. That's right. Believe me, a lot of people are like, yo, I know you're a teacher and you got, and this is for educational purposes, but can you actually run my studio session after school? Because it's a legit studio, So when we're online, we no longer have access to that, and the students obviously love to get in the studio.
Yes,
they love to get in the booth because it's you're 16 years old, you're getting in a fly booth. You got the mic, you got the dope lights, the fluorescent lights that make it pop. The booth even has AC in it. I mean, so the students bug out like, yo, this is legit. So we don't have access.
The Wi-Fi is acting crazy. Hold on, Sam. You can hear. Hold on. I'm having some Wi-Fi issues again. Hold on, Sam. I'm having Wi-Fi issues. I don't know what to do from there. Can't do a thing. All right, Sam. Hold on. I'm having a connection. Hold on.
And she come right back. Yep.
Hopefully Sam is still in too. Yo, Sam, can you hear me? I see him, but I don't see him. Yo, Sam, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're back up now. Cool. Fucking Wi-Fi, man.
Okay, cool.
Fucking Wi-Fi, man. But yeah, but you were talking about them getting the test.
No, you know what?
Go ahead.
I can't hear you anymore, man.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
By the way, this is often how it is doing a Zoom class with my students.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
So, just something to consider. That these are the kind of challenges and hurdles I have to deal with. Just the way you saw me in the car earlier, I have students who also have to go into their parents' car so they can be part of the class because they can't be in the house for whatever reason, right? Yeah. So
like, what kind of advice are you giving for the students that are having challenges? What kind of advice are you giving them as far as the classroom themselves? Like, how are you even grading them and things of that nature? Like, how is the whole system? Like you said, it was in the middle of the school year. So how do they even determine how the school year ends? Have they come up with those type of things yet?
Yeah, different districts have their own approach to it. I know Los Angeles Unified School District, the policy for them is that students cannot get a grade lower than what they had the last day of physical class. which here in LA was March 13th. So they can't get any lower. They can go higher, but they can't go any lower, right?
Okay.
Some schools, are being a little bit more lenient or flexible with deadlines, or or easing the load of work online, but they still expect the work to be done and to be graded accordingly. So everybody has a different approach to it. For me, I give my students 2 assignments a week, but again, it's hip hop culture stuff, so it's not, it's not as it's generally stuff that the students can do or want to do. It's easier to give students a hip hop based assignment than it is calculus,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Unless you're, a big fan of calculus.
Right. True. True.
But I give my students 2 assignments a week, and I grade the assignments, but I'm super flexible with my deadlines. Whereas in the classroom, I might say, let's finish this up, at the end of the week. Now I'm like, hey, just, let's try to knock it out by the end of the week. But if you can't, it's all good. I'll take it when you can turn it in, because again, there's nothing normal about what we're experiencing right now, and every student has circumstances that that justify why they may not be able to turn in a certain assignment
True. True.
or
So,
follow the routine. So you got to be understanding, and if you're not,
no
then
doubt.
you shouldn't be a teacher.
True indeed. True indeed. Now, with that being said, going forward, what would be the best case scenario for you going forward? If you had an opportunity to chart the way it's going to look from down forward, how would that look for the course that you're teaching specifically?
Yeah, I want to go back in the physical classroom, of course, when it's safe,
Of
uh,
course.
and when we're allowed to do so. But the best case scenario for me is just
Okay.
going back into
Word.
the physical classroom. There's nothing that beats that.
Word.
Some students like online teaching because it gives them a sense of privacy, or especially if you're an introvert.
Right.
You know,
Excuse me.
there's some benefits to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I won't deny that there are some benefits to this experience. And I know as we move forward into the future, into education, more and more uh, classes or schools are going to be 100% online. I got that. I understand. But the best case scenario for me would be to go back into the classroom. Since I know it's not going to happen, I'm planning an online workshop
Okay.
where I'll be providing students and their parents uh, online classroom etiquettes. I don't even know if etiquette is the right way to say, but just to have better expectations outlined for next year. We kind of went into this. We were thrown into it in March,
Yeah.
so we didn't know what we were learning along. As we were learning as we went along, but going back to school in August, September, now we got to have a little bit more structure in place. If we understand that this is how it's going to be, we got to
Right.
have more structure in place. We can't keep doing how it's been for the last 3 months.
True.
Um,
True.
so I think if the parents and the students get a sense of understanding of how we need to proceed, kind of like when you're in a classroom, there's certain behaviors or certain things that you have to abide by. Obviously you're not just going to throw stuff at students. You're not just going to start speaking in the middle of, if a teacher is talking, you're not just going to interrupt them. All the basic classroom management that that's typical to a classroom. We need to establish some norms and some standards for online teaching as well, so that it's effective and it moves everybody forward. So if not in the physical classroom, the best case scenario is that everybody understands those online norms. That would be great.
True. Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, man.
Yeah, it did. You did, definitely. And man, again, I know you're busy. You've been through a lot of, scenario changes just to do this conversation with me, and I truly appreciate you. For me, I think it's really important for us to have these conversations, have these stories, which is why even me documenting that nature, because as I was talking about yesterday, even with all the things that we've done, we have to put it in a proper context. We're still at the beginning of hip hop culture. We're less than 50 years at the beginning of our culture. So the work that you and I are doing now is really crucial to be documented. So it could be a foundation that people can kind of build upon.
Of course.
So I appreciate you, the work that you've done. Are you still doing the radio with Paul?
No, I stopped doing the radio show a while ago.
Okay.
It was just a little hard to manage.
I remember I was a guest on your radio show.
You were getting on my show. That's
yeah,
right.
Man. So again,
That's
man,
right.
appreciate you taking time, to do this. And like I said, this is one of many. I'm going to start having like different. Like I would love to do something where I could have like a few hip hop educators on, for sure. But you could help me bring that together. We could do kind of like a Zoom and show it later because again, as we create these new paradigms, hip hop is always going to be at the forefront because we don't make the remix anyway. That's just what we
exactly.
do.
And we've proven that just in the past few months with all of the IG battles. D Nice, just making the world a better place.
For sure.
So that's all hip hop. A lot of it is the OGs too.
Yo, man, exactly. You know what? This is the time. I often talk about, just in kind of loose terms. Hip hop is kind of like three generations. You have that 40 and older. You have that 39 about 25. You have that 25 and under. Loosely based, of course. But
Right.
It's really important for us as the elders to really take our position and to give forward to the young people. So big up to you for being front line teaching because I'm one of those ones that you talked about. I'll come in and do a lecture or a workshop, but my days of being in a classroom are over. So that's real work. And I tell people I've been blessed to teach from early Head Start all the way through college. And teaching is real work. In fact, there are people now that they're talking about teaching on even the collegiate. But I tell people I don't want to half-ass. If I know the work that it takes to teach, that's a lot different than a workshop or things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not that committed yet. So I may get back into the classroom. Big up to people like yourself that are frontline, that are heroes with our youth that touch them every day. They say when you teach a young person, you're actually touching the future. So you have the vision going all the time, Sam, and I really appreciate you, bro. Let the people know how they can be in contact with you and any closing words you want to have for the people.
For sure. Closing words. Look out for a hip hop culture class near you in a high school near you. I don't want to say soon, but soon enough. It is going to happen.
Definitely
working
connect
on
you
it.
with some people here in Atlanta, man. We need that, so we definitely be talking.
Oh, I'm believe me, I'm working on it. I'm part of a pretty historic initiative to make hip hop education a standard class at a high school level. So it's gonna take. It's not overnight. It's gonna take a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it. We're working on it. So that's my final word in terms of hip hop education. If people want to get a hold of me on Twitter, Seb is Hip Hop. On Instagram, Seb is Hip Hop. And on Facebook, Seb L, E-L, Seb L. That's how you can find me.
So again, brother, man, appreciate you, man, with this community conversations. We'll most certainly be talking. I'm going to post it later on Facebook once we get everything situated. Post it later on Facebook. Right. But peace and much love to you and your family, man. We want to end this the same way we started with a quick prayer to before what we asked to protect you and your family, the ancestors, we call them forward. We thank you for this time, energy. We send the Holy Spirit before you, making your way easy, playing straight, safe, and free. May you arrive at your next destination as safely as you are now, my brother. It is true. We let it be, and there it is. Amen. Ashe. Word.
Word.
All right, Sam. We're going to chop it up, fam. Peace and much love.
Peace.